Let's edit. Yeah, I hope, let me know if we got sound back on YouTube for anyone who's streaming live on YouTube. Yeah, I'm hoping that we get it. I'm getting message that YouTube. Yeah, going on to the comment from Danny, Bitcoin. That is something that I want to explore a little bit more, to be honest, and to engage in a conversation. But Benny, if you know about it and you feel comfortable, I will invite you to come on here and let's talk Bitcoin. Understanding the digital footprint and all that sort of stuff, where we're going. I am open to having it, but I'm going to prepare myself. I can tell you that right now. And but I say donkey don't belong in horse race, but I will make sure that I do my research, but I will welcome persons who know it to come on and discuss it and understand where we're going into this cashless society. And seeing other forms of being able to transact business. You can see in Europe, I have a friend right now that's in Brazil, and way out into the rural areas, pictures were sent back and they were amazed at the fact that for the services and products being served, despite them being somewhat off the grid, they were still able to accept payment. It's no cash in Brazil, where my friend is right now. And they were just blown over that it's cashless there and it's all by debit or credit card. And we can see in Europe right now, some of them actually accept Bitcoin in order to transact business. So where are we headed as a jurisdiction, as a financial jurisdiction, and having so much banks here? Are the rules of the game changing? You're seeing where we're even having limited teller hours now with some of our financial institutions. They're introducing you more to deal with basic transactions via what you call the ATM. AI is taking over, and where we're headed. So it's going to be interesting to be honest with you. But Benny, I take you up on that challenge. I see you see hashtag Bitcoin there. I would love to. I would love to engage in this conversation. We got an early caller. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Afternoon, beautiful Sabrina, as always.
Hi, Michelle.
But I just want to say this little thing. To Miss Ira, she got nerves. She know, if she hear me, she know who it is. I say, down there's hot as hell. Miss Ira, I wouldn't want to be down there. But I say this little match. I've been watching it. I got my phone plugged in because I've been watching it. And that's where politics is. But I just say, can't vote down there. And I said, well, and I got a lot of friends down there. But I said PNP all the way to Miss Ivor. Go, girl, go. But just be careful because I never see more cowls hitting and horns blowing and Jesus. And then crowds, I mean, they got huge orange, huge green. Boy, I don't know. And that JLP said about they're going to go landslide. But I doubt it. That's going to be tight as they say, how they had it? Tight as $1 is in a preacher pouch.
Okay.
So, and I've been watching, and I just got through talking to my friend, and he says St. Mary is crazy.
Yeah.
I say, you calling me? Because all the noise in the house. And I say, you calling me? No, there's noise. He said, politics. I say, yeah, but just be careful. He said, he going home because he has a Jamaican fighting.
Oh, my.
Say, yes.
Oh, my.
And then I had a girlfriend, and she said, Shelly, it's hot. I say, I know, I've been watching. This one promising this one promising, and next thing, this one cussing this one, next cheater worse, and that's up. But it's hot.
Yeah.
Very hot. Now, let's hope that nothing bad do happen because some of them is die hard, look like, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Their mouth now what gonna cover because some things I hear them out there telling each other, Lord Jesus, I don't think they need to.
It's a total different environment altogether. And this is why we're saying, it's a total different environment.
And how I don't understand it now, look, I know like how we vote him. Okay, I couldn't vote nowhere else but in Newlands. But if somebody from St. Mary just say, and they once they register and they in Mandeville or whatever, they don't have to go to St. Mary to vote. They can vote in Mandeville. That's funny.
I just look at how they conduct their campaigns, their rallies, and all that sort of stuff, and all these motorcades.
they what I call it, they can vote in any place. They don't direct have to vote in the place that they're registered for, or that's how I understand it.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm just looking for the
Different than ours.
results.
I guess our country got a different thing
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Honduras is big a mess too. The voting on it, no, sir. But they vote for 3 things. They vote for president, they vote for alcalde, and then they vote for something else.
Yeah. Thank you, caller. But wishing Ivor all the best.
Beautiful, you look. Well, you're always beautiful, but I love that blouse. You look good in that color.
Maybe you can have it afterwards. What do you think? You want it?
No, that's too young for me. I'm an old foot now. I got to stay in my corner. I don't put on tea. I try to get, like I tell them I'm not going to Coca-Cola chip, but I try to get what suits me. I don't put my, try to push my thing out of boundaries or out of context. I try to get, because my daughter keeps telling me too old school now. I say, well, yeah, well, leave me my old school.
So thank you so much. You can have it if you want it.
I don't want to look like an old ragamuffin, but I what suit me. And I'm going to shape up and eating all kind of pudding and all kind of pear and all kind of things, getting fat and doing nothing.
That's right. That's right.
And the ones, and be glad they'll have plenty of meat to work up in.
Oh, see, Connie's answering you, Shalma. No, Miss Shalma, you vote in your constituency. You have to check to see where you're registered to vote. So it's like ours.
But I heard one guy saying, listen, I heard one guy saying he was working in some place, but it wasn't downtown Kingston, and he said that why they moved him to vote downtown Kingston or something like that why he wasn't registered. So I thought, I don't know, well, maybe, like I said, I don't know, she's Jamaican, she should know, I don't know, but I know it's hot. And I hope it go off well. I hope they don't have no. Correct. No.
That's the key. That's the key. That's the key.
They hot, no, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very hot. It's firing, and tomorrow gonna be worse. That old woman home used to say, "What's the right?"
Thank you so much, Elma. Yeah.
Somebody got wind. Somebody probably have to go hospital or get sick or something.
It is the nature of the game. Thank you so much. Again, Connie, thank you for clarifying that. I really don't like, I'm referring to how the rallies are conducted, and just, again, a content creator here, podcast world. It's just amazing. It's that time down there, and it's just, I say some of those rallies are like a concert. When they drop in certain tunes, they have the artists down there that are supportive, or they're hired. You know, it's just different. But I enjoy it. I am having a good time, and may the best man win is what I say. But the key is who's going to deliver on the promise, and I'll leave it right there. But the Cayman Islands, let's bring it back home to the Labor Act right here in 2021. 2021 is a key legislation that pretty much governs our island. And it is pretty much, I will do my best in setting it out for you. And what that really does is it sets out the minimum standards for all employment here in the Cayman Islands. Even with individual contracts, they may offer more. You can change the terms and conditions of your contracts, but as long as it comes within the parameters of what the basic law has or says, you're okay. Like, for example, let's kick off on this one. Once you are employed, and there's a probationary period. Now, probationary period based on the contract, which is good. And let me break it down into the law. A statement of working conditions that defines a number of what is expected of the employer and vice versa should be given to any person who starts working in accordance to the Labor Act within 10 days after you start working. Now, as I said, that outlines a number of things. Damien says it triggers a number of people emotions. Yes, I just don't want to miss any of the comments here. But because I'm going to be sharing the information with you. But when you look at the statement of working conditions in accordance with the Labor Act, and I'll be referring to the actual act, that should be entered in at least no more than 10 days after someone starts working. And every employer who enters into this contract of employment with their employee, other than a casual worker or a person who is employed as a household domestic. So this does not apply to a domestic helper or a casual worker. But this contract then is within 10 working days of entering such contract, okay? Now that brings up a very interesting topic, because based on the statement of working conditions, you're seeing where at the end of the day, some of those persons who are reporting mistreatment are persons in domestic jobs and some of the lower tiered workers. And even though the statement of working conditions pretty much should include the job title, which that job title should align or must align if you're on a work permit with the same approved work permit that you have, okay? And in that document, it should state clearly what the responsibilities and duties are of the employee and any other special requirements or conditions of the job, which is mutually agreed by the employer and the employee. So it should also include the regular hours of work together with any particular terms and conditions relating to the hours of work and the rate of remuneration. That is the rate of pay or the method by which it may be calculated, okay? The intervals of which you're going to be paid, be it weekly, bi-weekly, which is every 2 weeks, or by month, or as agreed by both parties. We're talking about the statement of working conditions that is saved apart from casual workers and domestic helpers. They don't need a statement of working conditions. And this should be with at least 10 days from you start working, right? In a case where employees whose pay is normally stated on some bias or other than hourly, the hourly equivalent, save that in the case of persons paid wholly or in part by commission. So these are people who are paid on a commission basis. The rate of communication should be stated. The rate of commission, sorry, not communication, should be stated. So if there's 6-40, 20, whatever that ratio is, that has to be outlined in this statement of working conditions. The period of employment, if other than indefinite, the period of probation. Some people may enter into this without even probationary period. It's up to you, and it's the organization and the person who will be working. Also, the employee's holiday entitlement or method by which they may be calculated. The employee's entitlement to sick leave, very interesting. Entitlement to sick leave and the length of notice in which an employee is obligated to give and is entitled to receive to terminate the contract of employment. So in that document, statement of working conditions, if you want to terminate, it should be clearly outlined on how you exit, unless it's something really dire, that it has the relationship between the employer and the employee is broken down to a point that, let's say there's theft. Let's say there's a no-no of fighting, or you just outright disrespectful. You know, there are exceptions to the rule when there's gross misconduct, gross behavior, that it erodes the relationship between an employee and an employer, and based on the standards of the organization, you can eat with immediate effect. How you exit that as well. But outside of that, in general, how much notice is given usually aligns with how you're being paid, be it by the week, 2 weeks notice, or a month notice. It usually aligns with how you're being paid, okay? Wherever subsequent to the giving of a statement under this section 1 or 2, any material changes made. So any changes made to this statement of working conditions in any of the terms of employment set out in the statement, the employer shall forthwith furnish the employee with an amendment statement embodying the changes, which means after the document is executed, after both parties have agreed, no amendments should be made to that unless both parties agreed to the amendment, and any amendments, just going off, must be in accordance with this law, with the Labor Act. Or should there be special amendments being made, you consult with the Department of Labor and Pensions and get that also approved so both parties will know they're in accordance. And then number 4, subsection 4, an employer who fails to furnish a statement based on section 1 to 3 within 7 days of being requested in writing by the employee to whom it may relate to do so commits an offense. So what that says in layman's terms, that should the employer fail to provide a statement stating why they've changed it within 7 days of being requested in writing by the employee. So that means the employee needs to, if they become aware that any amendments has been made, the right thing for them to do is to write it, put it in writing, and ask for an explanation as to why the original terms of the statements of working conditions has been changed. And if they fail to actually give a response that is satisfactory, that employer is committing an offense. Now, one of the things too that I noticed in the law, many of persons say that they don't get paid for sick leave, they don't get vacation pay, but do you even understand the requirement for annual leave? And we will go into vacation leave that is under this act, under section 14 of this act, that states based on the length of time that you've been with an employer, it breaks it right down there for you, you know, based on the amount of the period of employment that you've been with that organization, that you're not exceeding up to 4 years, not exceeding 4 years, not exceeding 4 completed years, you're entitled to 2 weeks paid vacation. Exceeding 4 years, but less than 10, you're entitled to 3 weeks. Exceeding 10 years, exceeding 10 completed years, 4 weeks. Okay. So if you've been working for less than 4 years, or you have not exceeded 4 years, if you're working from 0, but not more than 4 years, you're entitled to 2 weeks paid vacation. And normally people ask, is that from January to December? Normally, a person's employment year starts from the day of their official hire. So let's say you started with an organization 1st of September. That's the first day of your year. So 1st of September 2025 to 1st of September 2026 would be your year. Let's say you started working on January 1st. That's a public holiday. But let's say you started working on January 1st. Then that's a calendar year for you. That's how it would work. Let's say you started working on June 15th. June 15th, 2025 to June 15th, 2026 is your year. It wouldn't be 1st of January to the 31st of December. It starts when you are hired. All of that is actually included in a written employment contract to all employees except for casual employees or household domestics. And it must be given in a written contract within 10 working days of starting their employment. Now, again, all of those details is there and it is not hard. There is no need for any excuse because if you get a copy of this, which is available, this law, it's right there online. So you can literally cut and paste the terms and conditions of this agreement directly from the government website and put it on a document. So there should be no reason why anyone should fall afoul of the law when it comes to just that basic requirement. Damien Charles, Michelle, Jim, late to class. Oh, Jim, we're right on your topic today. We're talking about the labor law. Rose, good evening, Sabrina. Final reach once more. Happy Tuesday to you in order to be back. Yes, it's a pleasure to have you all here. Yes, Jim, we're talking about the Labor Act, and we were just covering the terms and conditions of what should be entailed in a contract. And for those of you who are just joining me, this evening's podcast is delving in and hoping to just demystify any anomalies or misunderstandings as it pertains to the labor law here in the Cayman Islands. Now, when you're talking about even wages and working hours, anybody working in the private sector for over 40 hours a work week, anything over that has to be paid overtime, time and a half, based on your base hourly rate of pay. And if there's any changes to that falls outside of law, that can only be approved by the Department of Labor and Pensions, which means wages must be paid regularly with no more than 1 month interval between paydays. So by right, an employer shouldn't owe and must not owe their employees. And even if that is the case, it should not go no more than 1 month interval between paydays. Or you couldn't say in a contract that you're going to bill and pay a person their salary every 2 or 3 months. No, the law clearly states no more than 1 month interval between paydays. Overtime pay is required for working exceeding the standard work week of a work day. And a work week is 40 hours, some people 37 and a half. Now, all employees, and this is according to law, all employees are entitled to a minimum of 24 consecutive hours of rest in every 7-day period. That's not me. That's what's in the law. All employees are entitled to a minimum of 24 consecutive hours of rest in every 7-day period, aka at least 1 full day off where that employee doesn't work. That's law. That's the law. We are getting complaints, and I have heard numerous of stories where persons continually work. They do not get pay if they don't work. I am here to tell you today that is against the law. Even if employees are forcing no, let me get it right. Even if employees are arguing with employers to say, no, boss, it's okay. Do not do any deductions for my pensions. Do not do any deductions from my salary for even health. Me and you have an agreement. If I get sick, I'm going to go home and I'm going to take care of myself. Just pay me the hourly rate. Just pay me my monthly income. I am here to tell you that you are in no legal capacity as an employer or an employee to go against the law. You cannot do that. I know that some workers are arguing with the employers because they do not want to pay pension. They do not want to deal with medical insurance deductions. You do not have a choice in the Cayman Islands. That is not an option. That is by law. And to the employers, if you are actually doing the deductions from your workers' pay, it is not an option that you do the deduction and you don't pay your premiums for your medical insurance and your pension. That is mandatory. That is mandatory. So a lot of you are getting into some problems, especially with pension, because you're doing the deductions and you're not actively participating in a local pension plan. And when the relationships break down between yourselves and your employees, everybody goes to the relevant government agencies and they form their complaints. When things were good, both of you mutually agreed to go against the law. ignorance of the law is no excuse. And if you start off on the right footing from the beginning, we will have no problem. But I must admit, you do have some unscrupulous employers. You do have some unscrupulous employers. And we're not going back there because I said, we brought that up in a previous show, because I wanted to let people know what their rights were and what the rights are of the employers, because both parties have a responsibility to uphold the law. When it comes to sick leave, and this one was the one that really got me the most, when I heard that persons who are working, not on probation, that even if they are sick, they're not getting paid. Even if their employers know that they are genuinely sick and not just showing up to work because they know by law, all employees are entitled to a minimum of 10 days of paid sick leave per year. That is law. There's a reason why it's worded like that. You are entitled to a minimum of 10 days paid. The operative word here is paid sick leave per year. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a beautician. It doesn't matter whether or not you're a nail tech. It doesn't matter whether or not you are a carpenter, a mason in a construction industry. It doesn't matter not. It has no matter. The law says you're entitled to a minimum of 10 days sick leave. That, of course, can be extended with a doctor's note. But the key word is paid. So when I hear persons are told by their employers that if you don't work, you can't get paid, even if you provide a sick note, I am here to tell you that that is illegal. It's a different thing if you go over your 10 days sick leave now. That's a total different ball game. But it is not this blanket statement where you're working for my electrical company and we're going to agree that if you don't work or if you fall sick, you don't get paid. It's a difference if you're a no-show without proper explanation. That's a different thing. But if you are sick and you can provide, or worse yet, that an ambulance came on the job site or at your workplace to pick you up and they know you went, the ambulance not gonna pick you up to go shopping. You're going to a medical facility. Even if it's for those hours that you were not on the job site, you have to be paid by your employer. Okay? Let's get Nisha Ebank's comments here. Both parties know it's wrong. And if the employee don't know, the first permit they get here after a short period, they know it's illegal, which is why I said what I said, because I am aware that some employees are angered. They don't want to participate in this with these laws. But the employer is the one left holding the bag because they are legally responsible. They, the employer, has taken on the liability once they enter an employment agreement and they admit, I am a worker of ABC company. At the end of the day, both parties are wrong, but the biggest liability is borne on the employer, which is why it is paramount for our gatekeepers, those persons who are charged with enforcing the law, and I'll get into those rights of those officers. You would be blown what rights, what powers the operational arm has when it comes to what they can do to make sure that organizations, businesses are actually operating in the confines of the law. Ms. Ebanks goes on to say, truth is, the law says a lot, Sabrina, but these employers seem to be above these laws because they break them. You report them to Labor Board. You report them and Labor Board gives them a pat on the shoulder for the abuse the victim suffers within the workplace. But there's always a higher power. And I am aware of this. And that, my love, Ms. Ebanks, has been being said in this space since this conversation has come up for far too long. It has come up too often that people are not feeling that they're properly being serviced by the very government agency that is there as the gatekeepers of enforcing these legislation. Let me go back to the act here, and I go to the section so that you will know the responsibilities of the agents. Just give me. Good evening, caller. Michelle, you're live.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Because I never ever had nobody. The person that worked with me was my family. But tell me, if you have a helper, domestic helper, cleaning the house, they don't cook, they do all the chores around the house, even feed animals and stuff.
Yes, ma'am.
If they work on a holiday, are they supposed to get paid?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I tell the person that, but they're telling me no.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I say, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's a public holiday.
Yes.
That's why you will hear some employers like, OMG, another holiday. You don't get a free pass.
And then listen, one next thing, okay, this one, my brother, but he worked, okay, he was working for, okay, he was a qualified plumber, right? So he was working with one person, but then he worked with that person till that person decided to retire. But then they passed the business over to, well, you could say it's their son-in-law, because the girl not really for them, it's she was for their wife. But and he worked, okay, but when he got his papers to go to the state, he had worked 8 weeks vacation pay that they had owed him for. And then I was him a penny. And he left, I think he went to somebody around here, and he left it. And I told him, I said, well, you didn't left that with me. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the person that he left it with had went to Jean, and she was trying to have Solomon, and she was trying to have one, but all now my brother and I got 1 penny, 8 weeks vacation pay. And the family that he was working with every time, they say me, how is Sophie? When he coming back, tell him we love him and this and that. Now, I'd want to tell her one day, if I love him, give me his 8 weeks vacation pay, because I still owe him that. And now is when he need it, because he retired from Lowe's now, and he not working anymore. And then I will pay him $1.
But did he file? Are you aware if he actually filed an official complaint?
Well, I don't know, because he would. But I tell him, I say, listen to me, you is the same thing like me, and my mother taught us that don't make a person owe you, or she used to say, like, for instance, let's say in rent. If you pay in rent, don't make 1 month get away from you. 2 is more than 1. And if you always make it, like catch up on you, you never catch up again. And I tell him, I said, but I can't believe that you was my brother. I said, because they might owe me maybe the 1 week. I don't even think they want to go, but 8 weeks. I tell him, I said, boy, I feel like slapping you.
Some people are just scared, Michelle, because they're so happy to have a job. They come here expecting to be able to prepare, to be able to provide a better life for their family. And some employers just take advantage of that.
Really have a family, is him one by himself.
But still.
His wife left him and whatever. But what I'm saying, I tell him, I say, boy, I feel like slapping you. I tell him, I say, and you 6 foot something, and I'm only 5'9", but you're taller than me. But I wouldn't make that get away with that amount. 8 weeks.
So that would be 2 months. That would be 2 months. That's in breach of the law. I read it here at the beginning. That's in contravention of the law. That's against the law.
They know that they owe it to him, and I don't have the guy doing construction work now. Still, but every time they see me, they be asking me about my brother and telling me about telling me they love him and come look for him. But just to see how crooked and the audacity that people have on their face to be asking about him and knowing that that's what they did him. And he was a good worker, because when he went to work for Lowe's, they had him. He was and the man his boss, because he was working on waters and he wanted to transfer to it, and the boss told him when he was getting ready to retire, when he retired, he could go, but he wouldn't let him go. And everybody used to say, he used to tell him, like certain things, because my daughter, the thing that she knows, she's like a handy person, like to put up a shower head or something. You don't need to call a plumber just to do that. You can, and putting on a lock, she put on the lock on my door, and all them things he learned her. He used people, to try to save them, some money. Stuff that they could do for themselves, and think that's how good he was. And then I would give him $1 out of that 80. And then they had one out of Jamaica in 5 weeks. I don't know if he get it from the same company. I say, boy, on not easy. I say, no, sir. So I should have catch him and beat him that he didn't have skin left on his behind, because that's what he had deserved.
Yes. Well, thank you for that.
But all of that dirt, it's been going on a long time and still going on.
Yep.
I won't do that to people, because I wouldn't want nobody to do it to me. But I tell you, I never had no problem with my people that I work with, but them have been no, because I would have go crazy on them and beat them. They would have had to arrest me for beating them for my own something.
Thank you so much, Michelle. All right. Thank you for your question.
Still going on to poor people.
Okay. We got another caller coming in. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, my darling. How are you?
I am fair to fine. How are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. Another beautiful topic. Another awesome topic.
I'm trying to break it down. I'm getting onto sick leave and maternity leave and paternity leave, but I had to bring out certain things. But I'm going into, after I hear your comment or your question, powers of a director and deputy directors and inspectors. It's amazing. And even the record keeping of employers. So go ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes, I am so happy this comes out once again, because I perfectly know I am I'm a victim of being discriminated against from the Ritz-Carlton. I was discriminated and I was harassed in the workplace being a Caymanian, because I was there. My work was always done. They had no complaints on my work. They always looked to find something to pin on me. You know what it is for people to look at you and give you $900 tips just for making them feel welcome and appreciating them. One day, just per day, a day. So you know something had to be doing right. The rest of them, foreigners, they were offended about it. The manager himself, and I'm not afraid to say who he is, Mark Longevon himself, was harassing you, child, and discriminating against me, because they even went as far as to hire someone to get me out of the post. They hired these Caymanians for sham. After they hire them for sham, they harass them and get rid of them, so they can say, oh, see, the Caymanian never stayed on the job, or the Caymanian don't want to work. But here's where the letdown is. Our labor board. Our labor board is despicably disgusting, because when you report to the labor board, you get not 1 ounce of benefit when you report to your problems to the labor board. You can be in the right. I went to labor board with my issue, and it even went to tribunal. When it went to tribunal, I went to visit the secretary at the tribunal to give her my case. And she said, Miss Welcome, not all the time there's free spas and free dinners going to work around here. I said, well, I know that, but I hope and pray that it don't work here and now on my case. But evidently it did, because even though I went to court, they took me to court with what they were accusing me of. And the court threw it out and said they don't have no evidence or no proof whatsoever against Miss Welcome. The court threw it out, and Labor Tribunal ruled in favor of Ritz-Carlton. I did not get any servants' pay from Ritz-Carlton. And they have, just, oh my God, it is so disgusting. When I saw one of the workers, I saw one worker on immigration board, and I said to him, I understand that when it coming on work permits, I understand that Ritz-Carlton gives you guys free spas and free dinners in return on approve the permit. He said, yes, that was true, but he didn't took any. He left before he resigned before they came and approached him. He know of it happening. And you, as a Caymanian, refuse to speak out. That's where we gone wrong in this country. We are
They're
easily bought out.
scared. They're scared. A lot of
They-
the Caymanians take the verbal abuse from persons who are here on work permits because they don't have anywhere else to go. And unless you are, not everyone is going to be a you. Not everyone is going to be a Jim. And you will have, I've had, it's alleged that there's a very infamous job site right now where that is happening to Caymanians. That the work permit, and it's not like the Caymanians are not performing their duties. It's just how they're being treated on that particular job site. And the Caymanians just hold their heads down and get to it because they're grateful for the job.
Yep. They would put the foreigners to get all of the overtime, and the Caymanians have been I used to beg for overtime, and foreigners used to get that overtime over Caymanians there at the Ritz-Carlton, and it made no sense whatsoever to complain to Labour Board. Because Labour Board was not defending us. They were not defending the people of the workforce, which is very sad. I don't know why they are there, because they do not. When I said do not, I mean they do not assist people in the workforce that have issues with employers. The employers always get the better hand dealt with. You understand? Instead of the employee, or instead of neutral ground, instead of doing what's right, listening to the employee and sitting with the employer and say, look, you were wrong. You should not have done this to your employee, and charge them. But you can't get them to do nothing.
Well, they have to first investigate, but that goes right in, caller, to this. Under Section 72 and 73 of this act that declares the powers of director, deputy director, and inspectors. And it clearly states, and I quote, the director and deputy director and any labor inspector shall, for the performance of their functions under this act, have the power to, A, enter any workplace without previous notice at any time during working hours of that particular workplace. B, carry out any examination, test, or inquiry which that person may consider necessary to satisfy themselves that this act is being observed, meaning that this organization or this workplace is making sure that they're operating in accordance to this law. C, question, alone or in the presence of witnesses, any employer or employee on any matters concerning the application of this act, meaning in this case, not a physical job application. In this context, a question alone or in the presence of witness and any employer or employee on any matters concerning how this act is actually being upheld, and require the production of any records or documents required to be maintained by this act, and a copy or make abstracts of any such records or documents. And I will break down what those records are. But do you understand the right of these, the powers of the director, the deputy director, and inspectors? They don't need permission. That is covered under them, and they have the right to question alone or in the presence of witnesses any employer or employee. So let's dispel that it's only in the favor of the employer, because the act says, Section 73, subsection C, that these persons, inspectors, deputy director, and director, have the right to enter these premises and ask these questions or question anyone with or without a witness. And anyone in this particular context is the employer or the employee on any matters that is concerning in breach of this piece of legislation. And in this context, as quoted, concerning the application of this act, AKA upholding this piece of law. So when you see the word application in this context of this act, it doesn't mean a physical application. It means how the law is being upheld. So
it means how the law is being applied. I agree with you 100, and I know and I understand that the laws are there. The problem lies that they are not being enforced. That's where the problem lies, that they're not. It's not being. That has never been enforced in my terms. You understand? Because we have so many people that are scared, especially when you find people that are on work permit. They're scared to speak out because they're afraid they lose their permit and they lose their job. Because then once you go to the labor board and report something or on your employer, they make you a victim until they get rid of you. That ain't no joke. And because the employee knows that they have never gotten justice from the labor board, that is why they choose to suffer. You know how many tears have dropped on Ritz-Carlton with cruel treatment? Huh? And you couldn't even get not one MP to stand up to that. Could not even get one to say, no, this is not right. No, it needs to stop. And it's by time. It is about time that we start enforcing our laws. You know that in the penal code, I think it's section 121 or I think it's 121, where if an officer or civil servant does not do their duty, that is a breach of the law. You check it out, section 121, if I'm not mistaken. Any officer that refused to that a civil servant refused to do the duty he is hired for, or he or she is hired for, it's an offense. It is. Give me a minute here. Come I take knowledge is power,
Yep, and that's why we're here.
Knowledge is power. Let me see here. Get to this.
Section 38 of the SEAM legislation. And I'm seeing in the comments that this has been going on for years, but who has been able to delve into these laws and dissect this the way it is? And you are so right. And we're speaking from a place of knowing. I would just thought by now, some 18, probably 20 years after the fact, that we're still having these level of conversations as to these complaints. It's just mind blowing. Now, the service, until this caller finds what they're looking for, service employer, section 38 of the section.
Disobedience of lawful duty.
Okay,
121. I was correct. Disobedience of lawful duty. A person who willfully disobeys any law by doing an act which such laws forbid, or by omitting to do any act which such laws require to be done, and which concerns the public or any part of the public, commits an offense, and unless the law provides some other penalty, it liable to imprisonment for 2 years. Section 121 of the Penal Code 2019. And nobody can enforce it. Nobody wishes to enforce it or take them to court and say, this is what our penal code says, and you have committed an offense. Because they have not been serving our people.
Well,
and that's the same thing with the police. That's with all government agents.
That actually goes and falls afoul then who is not holding it up again, and it goes back to the gatekeepers, which is why I've read what the rights are of that particular department. Labor Board. It is not me. I am reading the actual act under section 73. They have the right. They don't even need to get like a search warrant or anything. They are going to make sure, and we're hearing about various construction sites. We're hearing about certain organizations, especially in the hospitality industry and the service industry, as we're right here talking about. You've actually shared comments to yourself. Michelle called in and said, there was other issues. Once you are afoul of the law, there is a process. But if the gatekeepers, what I'm hearing in this space, and people are not feeling that they're being represented by these government agencies, and for God's sake, please, I am not coming at anybody. We're just having an informed discussion, educating and pointing out the obvious, that if they're disgruntled persons that are dissatisfied with the level of services being offered, then my goodness, please look into the level of services that is being provided. I don't think anybody is here would be screaming at the mountaintops if they felt that they were being serviced adequately, or that their cases, when reported, were satisfactorily dealt with. That's what I'm hearing.
Sabrina, listen to 119, neglect of official duty from the Penal Code 2019 revision 119. A person who being employed in the public service willfully neglects to perform any duty which he is lawful bound to perform, provided that the discharge of such duty is not attended with greater danger than a man of ordinary firmness and activity may be expected to encounter, commits an offense. It is here in the Penal Code. But at the end of the day, they're not scared of this Penal Code. They don't let that bother them. They do what they feel like doing, and they ignore the jobs and the duties that they are hired to do. And who to hold them accountable? Who is to hold them accountable?
Yep, the civil servants in accordance to the law.
My good friends are DG, Mr. Manderson. He not got the time of the day. You understand? So come on.
Well, it's not him. No, it's not him.
He's not head of civil service?
Yes, but what I'm saying, he needs to task the directors of these departments, which is why the Labor Act under Section 73 states the powers. Now, if he's seeing where the directors aren't holding their lower staff accountable, let's say their supervisors, that then is responsible to hold the inspectors, who's responsible for going on the front lines, then it's a domino effect. It's a layers and layers.
Yes, but at the end of the day, he is the he is the top. He's the top person. He can intervene because he knows. And I mean, this is not something that I've been discussing and pelting out there today. This is quite some time that I've been speaking out about this, and you can't see no better. You cannot see no. I mean, look at the situation with the police. There's another case. No one cares. I couldn't even get the governor's attention to assist to tighten up the police belt and make them put up their shoes and get the work done what they are hired to do. You ain't getting nowhere. I've asked this government, I've asked my deputy premier, please let's have a meeting with the commissioner of police. Up to now, nothing. Because we need them to know that we're serious. We need them to do what they're hired to do.
It sounds to me that they need to actually have an audience and with a lot of the people who are working in the service industry. And Denny actually quoted here, Penal Code disobedience of the lawful duty 121, a person who willfully disobeys any law by doing any act which such law forbids, or by omitting to do any act which such law requires to be done, and which concerns the public or any part of the public commits an offense, and unless the law provides some other penalty, is liable of imprisonment for 2 years.
That's what I just read.
Yeah. So you got it just duplicating here. And we got Miss Neil Shah's eBank saying it's not just a Ritz-Carlton, and it is the entire tourism industry, including food and beverage industry. So we have an issue here right now.
I just spoke of my experience.
Yeah.
I just spoke of my personal experience. I know it's happening in other hotels and other areas of tourism. I know it is not only tourism, every industry, every workforce across the island, such things happen. It's just that the people are afraid to speak out because they know there's no justice for them. And at the end of the day, they know that they will be targeted and fired.
Shaka Zulu actually stated, Auntie Sabrina, please articulate as best you can. Why did Cayman dismantle the Caymanian Protection Board? Arguably, the board served Caymanians well for decades. It was a label, Shaka Zulu, that was changed. The Caymanian Protection Board was once, before we expanded and we evolved, back in the day, immigration only had one board, immigration board. That single board handled status and PR, handled all work permits, handled everything. If there were any grievances that were had, that was one board. over time, we saw where they had to split it up. You then had the Business Staffing Plan Board, the Caymanian Status and Permanent Residency Board, where once I was an assistant secretary to that board. And then you have the Business Staffing Plan, the Status and Permanent Residency Board, and the Work Permit Board. And now you have extended, where under the Immigration Act, you have administrators that have limited powers as well because of the volumes, that they could actually make decisions as well. And so can the director of WORC of work able to make those decisions. One of the recommendations in this immigration reform that is being proposed, and I'm hoping that more outward PR can be done on what is presented. It is expected that this may be a key piece of legislation that could be debated on the floor of Parliament in November. That is one of the things that is actually recommended, that it's going to be put back, renamed Caymanian Protection Act or Board. Now, I stand to be corrected with this, but if it's just a label and people are still feeling that they're being disserviced because the law lacks sufficient teeth, coming from an informed perspective as to how we can protect our own Caymanians, understanding the current environment, understanding our pace of growth, which I'm hearing on both sides. We want it to grow. We don't want it to grow. We're outnumbered. We get that. That too is a national discussion as we look at revising and reforming our immigration legislation. This was a huge topic in the 2025 elections. And I feel that there will be some amendments being made, but putting it under Caymanian Protection Board now, when it was back then versus now, it has various boards. Gosh, you would never get anything done. Some of these applications and some of these agendas can have all 200 and 300 work permits on. That's a work permit board. Some of the agendas for status and permanent residency as well can have upwards to 80, 100, sometimes more than that. And you have to go through each one meticulously. So let me tell you something. It's going to take some work, Shaka Zulu, but I hope I was able to explain that as best as I can. As we grew, as the demand for applications came in, that was where we saw that change. And then it was the Work Permit Board, the Business Staffing Plan Board, the Status and Permanent Residency Board, but it was a label. We had a Cayman Islands protection law too back in the day, and which is why we're trying to get back to that. So it speaks exactly what our Caymanians want, that it's a piece of legislation that protects us, because without it, we are left to the wolves is what people are feeling. Sorry, caller. Are you finished?
Yes, there. Yes. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, Ms. Ebanks, it's so bad in the tourism industry that even local customers are discriminated against. OMG. Yeah. Well, we see, I think Cold Hard Truth is going to have a story with the Palm Heights. I saw a video there and how locals were being made to feel, whether they were questioned as to whether or not they were actually paying guests of this resort. But I'll leave Sandra to do that, because we're going to stick it here with educating you on the labor law. And Jisara, a friend told me that she was told by her manager that the company doesn't give a raise until you're working with them for 2 years. Is that legal by law? Based on that's the policy of the organization, to be honest. It's normally on a year anniversary, you should do like an appraisal, and it's based on that appraisal. I don't know the operational side of the organization, Tashara, but each organization will have their own performance appraisal. Normally, raises are given based on performance, and a number of things can hinge on that. So if that was baked into the contract, that's an operational policy, and not necessarily the labor law. So that goes into how the operation operates its business. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Hello, darling.
Hi, darling.
How are you?
I'm just fair to fine. I like that voice. What are you bringing out of me? This is not the Late Show.
No. Honestly, let's get down to the brass tacks here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the point of having laws written
Mm-hmm.
for both the employer and the employee if the laws are not in? Any country can write whatever they want, use whatever ink they want, how many ever pages you want, and if that it's the laws are not being enforced, what's the point? And if the judicial system is not doing their part by handing down the proper verdicts for these unscrupulous employers, what is the point?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk all day about this,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to do any good for anyone if it's not being properly
Upheld, enforced. Mm-hmm.
Now, there is an enforcement area of government. There's the Labor Department, and there's WORC. I have no idea how many employees are involved in the department. However, when someone goes in to offer their grievance and nothing really gets done, what is the point? Why are people even going to speak up?
Mm-hmm.
Why are people going to go out of their way and risk possibly their livelihood
Yeah.
by speaking up and speaking out?
Mhm.
It's not working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And people have to understand, the people that are powers that be have to understand this has to change.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's going to change, when it's going to change, who knows if it's going to change. But it makes no sense. Especially if you go in, now what you were saying earlier about they don't have to have, give notice, they don't have to do anything, they can just go into a place
Yeah.
of business.
That's the law.
Yes, they can. And that is what happened the first go around with my situation.
Mm-hmm.
They raided all 3 locations at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when they go in, should you not be asked to produce certain documentation?
Yeah, it's in the law. I read it. Yeah, I read it.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened. The person was given X amount of days to produce the documentation. And I know for a fact some of the documentation was produced after the fact. I know that for a fact.
So they fell outside the conditions of when the government authority asked for production of documents?
They didn't even ask. Well, they asked, but they were given a window, a
Mm-hmm.
time frame to be able
To produce it.
the documents. So, of course, you can scramble and do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
You should be able to produce contracts. You should be able to produce your payroll. You should be able to produce everything and anything as an employer if you have employees.
Mm-hmm. That should be standard in any organization. Basic
Then
record
why-
keeping.
This is what I'm saying. Then why aren't laws being upheld by the departments that are supposed to be upholding them?
Because if they're not aware of it, because people are scared of certain things and they don't do random checks for whatever reason, I can't speak for them. I'm not making any excuses.
No,
You understand? This is just for discussion purposes. Right. Maybe a lot of these things are going unchecked because they're not upholding the law. They're not being true gatekeepers of the legislation. Why persons are actually breaking the law? Simple.
Right. I mean, I know somebody in WORC that said to an employee when they raided the stores, said to the employee, which was related to the owner,
mm-hmm.
Tell your daddy he better get you paid for your vacation. When he was asked, he got his vacation paid.
Oh, wow.
So we have to backpedal a little bit
mm-hmm.
and see and ask why this type of behavior is being permitted. And like I said to you before, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
But then doesn't accountability come in there from the highest power? I mean, there's a lack of accountability. What is actually coming out of this, Jim, is that, and it's a chorus, that people are not satisfied that the gatekeepers are gatekeeping properly.
No. So I mean, I appreciate you hearing me out originally. I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me again. I appreciate you offering the information to the public. But unless these issues are addressed
It's all for naught.
by the people that need to be addressing them, and the gatekeepers, as you call them, are holding these people accountable, then it's useless.
More,
And it's
more and more, Jim, we're getting more complaints coming into me about working conditions in a workplace, toxic environment. They want to speak up, but they're scared.
I understand
You
that.
know, and that's the biggest problem. Now, why are they fearful in the first place? If the gatekeepers environment was one that was welcoming, that one that would demonstrate, look, this is a safe space. You can report, you can file a complaint, here's the process, even if you need assistance, that it's there, and not be felt as though your boss will know before you even leave there. That could cause some serious problems.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
But these people are going to stay fearful because they're made to be fearful by what is being said to them and what the threats are to them about deportation, losing your job. I mean, I've heard this over and over for years. I remember my first employer on this island. I couldn't believe the way he threatened his employees. But I mean, where does it stop, and how do we fix it?
Enforcement. It has to be enforcement. But first and foremost, okay, this is not going to be a cop out on the gatekeepers. Okay, it cannot start unless people become empowered and no longer scared to go and make an official report. If it is a case where it is happening to one particular organization, then there's strength in numbers. But I'm hoping that based on this conversation and the amount of dialogue that we have had as we try to ventilate, as we try to navigate this space, that those gatekeepers will realize, Houston, we have a problem. And they create that space where people can feel welcome. Jim, and until that happens, it's not going to be, the law is not going to be upheld.
May I also say something, Sabrina?
Sure.
There are powers that be in these, the word I'm looking for, nationals, okay? You have certain powers in the Indian community. You have certain powers in the Filipino community. You have certain powers here, there, and everywhere that will go to their people. I know this for a fact. Go to their people and say, you're not going to pursue this. It's going to stop right here.
Oh, wow.
No more. I know this for a fact. I even have emails to prove it. So
then you got to understand, you got to try to wonder what terms and conditions they came here on in the first place.
Well, I also know some of those, as well as favors and human trafficking. Yes, I know all of that. I know all. So it's I mean, the first employee, or not the first employee, one of the people that worked for me as a house helper, they were sent here and were charged every single month a fee because they borrowed the money to get here. And they held that money over that person's head every single payday. And I ended up, the wife of the man that was holding this guy hostage, basically, was a school teacher here in Cayman.
Oh, God.
And I called her to let her know that you better tell your husband to back off. Because if he does anything more to this individual who's working in my home, I'm going to turn you into government, as well as your husband, and you will both be escorted off the island because that is illegal in the Cayman Islands. This person was so stressed out, crying, the individual. and it was somebody of their own nationality.
Oh, wow.
And it's happening all the time. All the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, all I can do is vocalize,
Yeah.
share my stories, let people know that I do know what's going on this island. Not everything, of course. I know how to, what the information you need, what you
Mhm.
have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if the laws don't change or the gatekeepers don't hold those people accountable
Correct.
who are in those positions, it makes no difference.
And if there's a staffing issue, if it's proper funding so that they're properly trained to identify these breaches, you're at the perfect time right now. I mean, they're doing budget. Make sure you can get the adequate funding to get the right manpower with the right skill sets who can probably read these laws and see where there's a breach. This is not by any means undermining anybody, but you'd be surprised how much of these people don't even pick up the law.
Right. Right.
And they're gatekeepers.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
All right, I've said my say. I'll try to get how fast I get fired up with this. because I have-
It's 6:30. It's 6:30, Nick. Jimbo, it is always a pleasure. Thank you so much for contributing. You're welcome here any day. That's too funny. I don't know where the heck I get this thing from calling Jim Nick, but well said. And thank you for your contribution. But another thing for true, this human trafficking is at a different level. And we're noticing it, for call it what it may, in certain nationalities, as Jim alluded to in his contribution to the show. And when you have that and you're looking at some foreign nationals who either commit suicide, and when you hear the stories after the fact, Houston, we got a problem. We got a problem, but it's hard to even understand, to be honestly, what they are subjected to, prior to coming on island and getting gainful employment. And if there are these cell networks of these particular nationalities, then we have an international problem that we need to delve into. And that's going to probably take a special operation to really work into these cells, to get into it, to really understand it. Caller, you're live. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks.
Hello, Miss Sabrina of Sabrina Speaks.
Hi, Sandra.
I must tell you, what Jim said and what you're speaking about is so on point. All the time. There's a lady in Northside, she's married to a Kenyan guy, who is well known for, or you could call it as human trafficking. And unfortunately, a lot of these people are her own family members, which complicates it even more because they don't want her to get in trouble. So they're hesitant to report for so many different reasons, but you also have to understand that the culture from which they come from dictates that they do not report. This is, let's talk about crime in other countries. There's a cultural element to it. And so their culture dictates that when you go abroad, even if you go there and you're human trafficked for work purposes or whatever, you don't speak up. I remember a case in court where a Filipino young lady was sexually assaulted. She was raped by another Filipino. And he was calling other leaders in the community to try to talk her out of pressing charges against him and going to the police. Because that's how their community works. Like they have a senior elder in the community.
Right.
And they take advice from that person counsels. They're halfway around the world. I feel very, very sorry for, a lot of the situations that they find themselves in. But given the distance that they're away from home, they use like a network. It's a real support system. But even in their own country, they do the same thing. And so people will take advantage of that, knowing that they have wronged their own people, and then they won't speak up. I must say, sometimes they reach out to me for help. And I have said to them, listen, you have got to be willing to speak up. That is the most important thing. And more, they are actually finding the courage to do so. I don't know if you remember that case with, what was her name? Mary Jean, where she got deported, right?
Yeah.
She had taken advantage of so many of them in terms of immigration, taking their money. But, for years, Mary Jean was getting away with so much stuff. you know, pimping out her poor kids, just pawning them off on people, stealing jewelry, stealing money. She was on her 9th life, like literally the things that she had been up to. So I'm glad immigration finally just said, go back home, you're out of here. Because she was a habitual abuser. And the last straw then was the immigration infractions and taking money from her people for work permits. Remember there was the other one during COVID with the scam where she was taking money for airline tickets.
Yeah.
And there were never any tickets.
You highlighted that big.
Yeah, she had a whole slew of people, and the court said, listen, the worst part of this is you're doing it against your own people. And you know their plight. You know the circumstances under which they come from, you know, the Philippines, right? And they're desperate to come here. A lot of them come here with really good qualifications, but they're literally take a job mopping your floor until they can do better. The most important thing for them is to just get a foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they understand how desperate their people are. Some of them have even borrowed money
to get here,
give to these people to be able to get here.
Yeah. And you see the exchange, the exchange rate is so good.
Yeah, the Jamaicans do the exact same thing, some of them, to their own people. Most of the work permit infractions, when people call me these days, like, okay, this person took my money, never took out a permit. It's like nationality on nationality. It's their own people. So Jamaicans who now have Cayman status, they're doing it to each other. Filipinos married to Caymanians, they're doing it to each other. So immigration and WORC, the authorities, you know, same thing within the Nepalese community. There's human trafficking and stuff going on there. We have got to pay very, very close attention to the different cultural groups that we know tend to do.
They're infamous for those type of behaviors.
And you know, they're going to start cracking down. I'm sorry to say, but just like how I was talking this morning about how you have politically exposed persons, they are required to go through an additional degree of vetting. You can do the same thing with a work permit application. You know, you can say, listen, sorry, but if you're a Jamaican national that now has Cayman status, or even if you're a Caymanian married to Jamaican, because enough of our own people involved in the same mess as well, you know, using people and allowing other people to use them, there will be a degree of vetting extra that is going to happen when it comes to your permit. We need to stop giving out these work permits willy-nilly and really make these people prove that they have these jobs. They're setting up, you know, lawn business, the home care businesses, all sorts of stuff. And they're fraudulent businesses. They don't even have clients.
Correct.
So Jim brought up some excellent points. And I think that at the end of the day, we got to tighten it. We're such a small country. We have the opportunity to close the gap.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we need to do it as quickly as possible.
Yep. I just feel we have to empower people to speak up more. And again, it requires a safe space of the agencies that is providing these services. And if people are just feel that they're more exposed than actually welcome in actually being able to report these infractions, then Sandra, we have a huge problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, we have to continue the conversation.
Yes.
And the more people that speak up, you know, the better.
Correct.
I keep encouraging them to stop being afraid, because, you know, if you are a person who is qualified, you have legitimate qualifications, and you're a good worker, you will find another job. You will find an employer.
Yeah.
Don't let these people abuse you, because they become destitute. They have no jobs, no real jobs, no money, nothing. And then that's when they get in trouble. They go out there engaging in prostitution. You know, I remember one Honduran woman, bless her little heart, you know, she wasn't sending money home, and the family kind of called her out for it. When I met with her and she gave me some money to send, she was in tears, because she's like, you know, I'm not making, my family thinks I'm making a pile of money and I'm refusing to take care of my child.
Right.
I'm not doing that. I can't afford it. I'm working a minimum wage job.
Right.
And I'm not, you know, it was just so sad. It was just horrible.
Thank you.
You know, she told me, she said, I'm ashamed, but I'm telling you, you know, I have had to go out there and basically sleep with someone for $1. And I said, what? I said, girl, go back home. Why would you stay here? And you know what she said? This is still better than what happens in her own country.
Oh, wow.
That is just so sad. Because she's at least when I put my head down at night, I feel safe. I know
Mhm.
nobody is likely to come in to murder me, to rape me, whatever.
Mhm.
Although she's having to do things that she really would not want to do by choice, but out of desperation, she said it's still a better situation than in my own country. And I
Right.
said to her, but listen, we don't want that here. We don't want that in the Cayman Islands. We don't want you coming here that destitute, where you are then engaging in other criminal activities, secondary crimes, in order to support yourself.
Right. Right.
Oh my God. I feel
Thank
sorry
you.
for them. But,
Yep, we got to do what
know,
we got to do, but we got to hold them
yeah,
accountable. And the
sometimes
more
it's best
people
for them to
speak
stay
up,
home.
the better it is. And I'm hoping that
Yeah.
persons will actually hear the cries here. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
And it's better to just stay home. Thank
Yeah,
you, Sabrina.
sure.
Wonderful discussion.
Thank you. Good evening, caller. You're live.
Good evening, Miss Sabrina.
Hi. How are you?
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I just want to, I'm not going to be long. I'm just going to quickly say my 2 cents. 2012, I was working as a travel agent.
Mhm.
I took sick and I went back and forth to doctor for about 2 weeks till I finally had had enough, and I went and I saw the doctor. And anyway, I was diagnosed with a livable communicable disease.
Mhm.
I kept the owner of the business up to date with everything, what was going on with me. I was told to go ahead, just take the time off, get yourself well,
Mhm.
so you can come back to work.
Mhm.
Well, January came, the doctor cleared me. When I sent the email, I gave a call after that, and I said, you know, my doctor says I'm okay to come back.
Mhm.
Um, I was kindly sent an email and told that in my absence,
Mhm.
I had rehired and restaffed. I said, okay,
Oh wow.
where does that leave me?
Mhm.
Um, she didn't really want to answer the questions. So then I went looking for work. I couldn't find work till a couple of years later. But I sat down and I thought about it, and I says, you know, she owes me severance for the 6 years that I had been there.
Mhm.
I went to the labor board and I explained what happened. The labor board weren't of any help, unfortunately, as we all know. Um, this went back and forth for a couple of weeks. Me going back to them, she saying what she had to say, and I just looked at the officer at the time and I said, "Look, let me tell you this. It's not going to go like this. This is it. I've had enough of this foolishness. Here we go. You tell her I said, just like this. Write the check for the severance that I'm supposed to get,
Mhm.
or you can have a lawyer contact you, which one you want to do."
Mhm.
Within 2 days, 2 days, and this wasn't no pile of money we were talking about. It was under $2,000, okay?
Mhm.
Within 2 days, labor board called me and said, Mr. Ebanks, you need to come. We have your check. I said, oh, that worked for her. Good. The woman has never answered the question
Mhm.
as to why I didn't have a job.
Mhm.
She didn't fire me. There was no reason to fire me
Mhm.
because I did my job.
Hmm.
I just was not taken back because of what I was diagnosed with.
Mhm.
And I sat down for 5 years and I had my friends at the time, which are far and few now, but it's okay. And I said, I just leaving it. I'm just leaving it. I'm just leaving it. And they were like, no, you need to carry her to court. You need to carry her to court. I didn't carry her to court. The 5 years elapsed and I said, there will be a day, and the day will come when I can jump for joy.
Mhm.
Miss Sabrina, the day came and it was called lockdown. COVID.
Mhm. Mhm.
I laughed and I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. I said, I wonder who could be booking tickets at your travel agency now. And the travel agency is Travel Pros. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, all the travel agencies had to close down and they reopened afterwards, but they had to move out of they moved from the town office there on Dr. Roy's Drive where they were renting, and they're into the Red Sales building down there where Coconut Place and stuff is, where Eduardo's restaurant used to be, and Benjamin's
Right.
top of the fall. Red Sails down back there. One of the owners of Red Sails is part owner of the company, and I don't ever think that man ever knew what took place with me. And it's just sad to see how some people will own businesses and treat you in a way that it's unimaginable.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, I was diagnosed with something I could live with, but you were kept up to date. I told you every appointment I had. I told you every time the doctor told me
Mm-hmm.
what was going on. And to see the way that I was treated, it was as if I was scorned because of what I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was an outcast.
Mm-hmm.
These people wouldn't talk to me no more that I had worked with for 6 years. And I'm like, you people just come and you do as you feel, but you don't realize the implications of what you have done. You've left me jobless. I
Mm-hmm.
had no job.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't fired. The labor board looked at me and said, there's nothing they can do. All we can do is try to get your severance for you. I said, really? So it has been happening so long ago.
Right.
And it is really sad to see that it continues to happen. And it continues to happen not only by certain Caymanians who have gotten status, it continues to happen by the work permit holders that come here and bring their own people here and treat them like crap. And, labor and pensions have to do better. And I'm hoping they get their act together under this government,
Mm-hmm.
because there are a lot of foreign workers here, excuse me, that are being exploited in many ways. And when you hear the stories from some of them, and just like Miss Sandra said, they don't want to speak up because they are
They're
afraid.
scared. Or their
you know?
families' lives could be threatened.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't know what's happening in their country of origin, but they know.
No, I had a Filipino friend of mine
Mm-hmm.
that he worked for one of the furniture companies some years back.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all living in this house on Bogasan Road
Mm-hmm.
that the owner put them in. And one of them didn't like him because he held her secret.
Mm-hmm.
She had a heart condition, Miss Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
And her medical from overseas said she was in perfect health.
Mm-hmm.
So he could have used that against her. And she did everything she could till she got in an argument with him one evening.
Uh-huh.
And he picked up a broomstick and that to defend himself. And that was all that was needed. She had a Jamaican police officer that she was friends with. And within 3 months, he was out of a job and he had to leave Cayman. That's how the system works.
But it wouldn't be for the
Terribly
heart condition,
corrupt.
would it? It would be because of other reasons. Because
The girl that worked with him
right.
had the heart condition, and he could have told the employer that she was not healthy. But she chose to go after him one night to hit him, and he picked up a broom.
Got you. I
hit
get
her.
where you're going. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was charged with assault. And
Okay.
not her,
Okay.
because
Okay.
of who she knew,
Understood.
the Jamaican police officer. And I sat there, and he had a family that he was taking care of.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried that night with him because it broke me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of that going on here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where you abuse, you bring someone here, you tell them you're going to get $1,500, $1,600 a month, and you pay them half of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's stories from people that I've heard. It breaks you. It makes you sit there and go, "This really happening in my country?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?"
It is.
But I'll leave you there.
Thank you so
it's
much.
Sad, and the
Mhm.
laws need to really be changed. And I know this government has a lot to do.
Actually, caller, what we're getting, and I've got all the comments to say that it's really not the law. It's enforcing the law and stiffer
It is
penalties.
enforcing it.
But more, you gotta catch them. And people then first have to be empowered to report. But it's accountability. It is accountability that is lacking. It's just getting together case files and just the power is there in the law. I read the entire section.
Nobody wants to tackle it.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Correct. And
Because
it could
they
be
are
because
just
of her
afraid.
size. It could be because
Yeah.
of relativity. It could be because of them knowing each other. And that again is one of the disadvantages of being a small island jurisdiction. But it should
we know
not
everybody.
impair your duties of execute. It shouldn't impair you being
Justice-
able to execute your
justice-
duties.
Just you have to do right where someone has been wrong,
Correct.
no matter what. And labor and pension really got to do a lot more. And I'll say another thing about this pension. When I had to go to my pension, I had one of the pension providers from one of the banks, okay? I'm going to name that, where my pension had been left for years after I came out of banking and went into travel industry. And when I told him I had a medical condition and I needed to access my pension, the man cleanly told me no. And I sent him the email from the Labor and Pension Office and said, here you go. You go tell them no. The man did not want me to access my pension.
Oh, wow.
No, he didn't. And he was shocked when I said, I'm sending you an email and you talk to the young lady at the pension board and she'll tell you, you better get that current statement out and you better get it to me real fast. And you know, within 2 weeks, I had my first payment for my pension payout that helped me to survive till I found something else.
Things to do.
There are all sorts of ways that labor and pension needs to be improved. The people we have the laws, yes, but we need people with grit and determination to actually sit down and say, look, this employer has done wrong. This needs to be fixed. I'll leave you there.
Thank you so
Your
much, caller.
studio is looking beautiful.
Thank you.
And oh, it's just gorgeous.
It's relaxing.
Gorgeous. You have a blessed
That
evening.
means a lot coming from you. Thank you so much.
And enjoy. I love the colors.
Thank you.
You did a perfect match with our flag.
Thank you.
Perfect match.
Thank you so much.
And I want to say one last thing.
Go ahead.
This thing about whoever came up with hashtag K-Mankind, because it was not a K-Manian, okay?
Okay.
We need to change that to reflect us.
Right.
We need to change it. I saw it the other day at where the government on TV put up some new boards or something with pile of young Caymanians on it. A couple of the members of government was there, the MPs, and it said behind it, hashtag Caymanian proud. We need to do it. Hashtag Caymanian kind.
Nice.
I'll leave you there.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Bye-bye,
Take
Mr.
care.
Sabrina.
Sure.
Thank you. Bye.
Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Howdy.
Hi. Let me read what you just posted, Danny. Constitution Order 2009, Lawful Administration, Action 19. 1, all decisions and act of public official must be lawful, rational, proportionate, and procedurally fair. Subsection 2, every person whose interest has been adversely affected by such a decision or act has the right to request and be given written reasons for that decision or act. Now tell me what else is on your mind.
The word written in what you just read is something that I advocated for in 2008 to be included in that provision. The reason why this is important to this discussion is that earlier, one of your callers pointed out that it was a breach of Section 121 and 119 of the Criminal Procedure Code of the Penal Code to fail to do the things which are required by law. And so Section 119 of the Constitution says that all acts must be lawful. So I've heard you describe in the employment legislation that they have the powers to go in and investigate.
Under 73.
Okay. Their failure to do that when a report has been made to them, that's not rational. That's not lawful. Okay. Because you have someone who is making a claim and willing to put it down in writing and saying, look, here's what the facts are. Now, the failure of them to do that, that's not lawful. Now, the reason why the word written is important here is because if the Labor Department fails to carry out the provisions of the labor law, they're not acting lawfully or rationally, which means that in paragraph 2 of 19, it says that any person who's aggrieved by the actions of that public official have the right to write that public official and ask them for the written reasons why they failed to carry out the provisions of the labor law, meaning go down and investigate.
So who's going to challenge that? People are scared enough even going to report, Danny.
Well, let me make, this is why I would never get elected in Cayman. What I'm about to say next. There is no one riding in on a white stallion to save you. You are either going to have the courage to stand up for your rights, or even what other rights you think you have will also be taken away from you because of your cowardness. And that's just the hard cold fact.
So this blanket statement of ignorance to the law is no excuse is just a tip of the iceberg. You also have to have a personality, that drive, be motivated to just stand up for what you, but knowing the law also empowers you.
That's right. But you see this thing about having people come here from cultures who are afraid to stand up in that way? That coupled with our own cowardness, I'm not including myself in that, by the way, that's going to destroy us as a people.
It speaks a lot of the jurisdiction. That's wider implications, because it clearly states, and you may have heard me use this numerous times before, we're overregulated but under enforced. It's not that we're short of laws, and not to say that some don't need more teeth or has to be updated, but we're under enforced.
Yeah. But you see what the problem is by just saying that. In the mind of a simple person, they will say, well,
yes, Danny.
Enforce the law, because you won't insist that they enforce the law. I mean, let me give you an example. This provision right here, right now, is being. I have written 2 civil servants over this. Right, that haven't been answered yet, and one of them had the nerve to tell me that she's not going to answer me. You know what the really bad part is? She's a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
She should know that she's constitutionally required to answer me.
But why you think they would be so openly saying no is because then they're a lack of accountability, or you not pushing it higher? What are your thoughts?
It's going to go higher. But you see, if I give you the opportunity to do your part, let me tell you one of the catches that sometimes they'll try to use. When you ask for something to be done, if you jump and try to be too hasty, they will say that the time that you've given them has been unreasonable, or in this period of time we were so busy and we need more time. Or I'm just giving them all of the rope they need, but their toes won't be able to touch the ground. The time will come when I will pull on the rope, and it will be hard. But the point I'm making to you is that if what you hear is that when you hear that the law isn't being enforced, if what you're thinking is that somebody out there in the civil service won't do their job, then you're not understanding how things really work.
Right.
It is not the civil service that's going to defend you. It is you.
They're going to defend yourself.
By insisting that your rights be respected.
But who do you go to? then that's a civil matter. Who has the funds? Unless there's a class action lawsuit. I'm just devil's advocate.
It's judicial review,
Okay.
right? But the point I'm making to you is that they're not going to win that case because the Constitution isn't vague about whether you have a right to be given written reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely clear. And so if they want to go down that route, they can. But then here's the problem. Before you go down the right route of judicial review, you have to go through the ombudsman.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not considered good administration to act unlawfully
Mm-hmm.
or irrationally or disproportionate or procedurally unfair.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So what that means is that before you get to a judicial review, you'll have the ombudsman telling you, you just can't not answer the question. It doesn't give you that option.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to risk that embarrassment, they can go ahead, but understand that the ombudsman's declaration on whether someone has acted, they're bound to be acting
Within.
inappropriately,
Right. Mm-hmm.
then they can go ahead and do that, but that'll be on their record forever.
Hmm.
Right? Now, I'm quite prepared to go down that road. I'm putting them in a position where they won't be able to come back and say, well, you didn't give us enough time to address your concern.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In fact, leading up to the election, I brought it to the attention
Mm-hmm.
of the now premier that you had a civil servant with that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Subsequent to the election, I brought it up again. And he agrees theoretically that it should be dealt with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So either it's going to be dealt with or it's going to get embarrassing. But the reason I didn't push it any faster than it's going now is because I didn't want him to say, well, I didn't have enough time.
Right. You're following
It's
due
just-
process. You're just making it take and
I've talked about it publicly, so they know that I'm concerned about this.
Mm-hmm.
They know that it's not a dead issue.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they going to say to the ombudsman when it took forever to give me an answer that they could have just told me the reason why they did it in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's what you got to realize. Since they made a decision, they should know why they made the decision. So all they have to do is tell me the reasons why they made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
So that shouldn't take any time.
Right.
You should already know the answer because you've already done the act. Why did you do it? Not answering that will be very embarrassing.
Right.
And then it could go farther than that. But the point I'm making is that we cannot just sit down and accept that the Labor Department isn't going to do anything.
What's
Because
the way
what
out?
that means that's not going to help us. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We have to come together and we have to send a powerful message that they are going to follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know that when a budget is created, departments ask for money to perform services.
Correct.
And they have to agree with the deputy governor to perform those services in order to get paid.
And it's his job to oversee that they deliver for what they were funded for.
Well,
in a timely manner.
If they're not actually living up to their obligations under that section of the labor law,
Mm-hmm.
then he needs to have a strong conversation with them about their failure to do the inspections to verify what information whether the claim that a employee is making is accurate or not. And that requires them to go in and look at the records, because if you haven't been paying me,
Right.
then you should be able to go and look at the record and see that no payment has been made. Right. So it is up to us to hold them accountable. They are not going to hold themselves accountable. That's the thing we need to keep in sharp focus.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
take care.
I based on popular demand, we said we would go to 7. I'm in overtime. Danny, I blame you.
You can blame me for anything you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Oh Lord, no. Take care. And I want to take you up on that suggestion about Bitcoin, but you got to join me.
I'm gonna see if there's someone who is
Whomever you brought it up
more knowledgeable than me about it.
Oh, okay. Cool.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, man. But I'll be more than happy. I'll do my background though, so that I can hold it down as a host. But yeah, I think we need to go there with that conversation, to be honest. Thank you so much as usual.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Michelle, I know you were calling, and I just wanted to we were talking about termination of employment and the severance pay that the other caller called about. If you've been employed for more than 1 year and are terminated for a reason other than just cause, such as serious misconduct, like I said, theft, fighting, that sort of stuff, where the relationship between you and an employer is irretrievably broken down to the point that it can't be repaired, you are entitled to severance pay. And it's calculated as 1 week's pay for each completed year of service. So 1 week pay of each completed year of service. And notice period should, this is encapsulating now termination of employment. Both employers and employees must give written notice of termination. So if me, the worker, want to leave working for ABC company, out of respect, I need to give notice. Now it's up to the employer, upon given that written notice, based on the position that I hold, maybe certain information that I may be privy to, for whatever reasons, they may actually says, you know what, I'm going to pay you out for your notice. You leave now. Or they may allow you to work through your notice period. But both parties need to actually be given written notice. And the length of the notice period, like I said at the beginning, is usually tied to the interval that is between paydays and length of service. So if you get paid every week, you need to give 1 week notice. If you get paid every 2 weeks, 2 weeks notice. If you get paid monthly, you're entitled to give 1 month's notice. Caller, you're live again.
Yeah, but they closed the company down. While telling her about the 8 week rotation pay, they closed the company down, but I don't worry about that. But what I wanted to tell you, Miss Sandra is up on everything, boys. Mary Jean, I didn't know she had know about the Mary Jean. I knew about what she was doing long before they even arrest her, but it wasn't my business. She was my pedicurist. Very good. But I don't know why she got into what she was into, because she was making good money. She messed herself up. I was so sad I cried when I heard, because I know they were going to arrest her. Because what with family to me, and they had to terminate her. They knew about it. But I don't know what in them, but not only that, I don't know, she was nice, and because her nieces who do my foot now at the same salon. But, and she was very good. She was good with these and growing toenails and think that one of the best that they had at them. And they were, it hurt them to let her go too, but they said they had to let her go. They couldn't keep her. But she was trying to get married too, to stay here. Because one day when I read that, then it's so funny, the person are family to me, but they were married to somebody that is my family to my husband. And they were talking to them, but they're not here. They are off island, but they were planning on coming. They were in Texas. And when I went, she was outside by the the grill outside, and she said, oh, Michelle, may you come for your appointment now? And then the person heard the name, and then that Michelle, and then she said, you know him? And then she put me on the phone, and I say, I know him. But then I think something that I say kind of get her, what I call it. So then when I went back about in a month time, I said to her, she was still talking to the person, and she said, no, she said, I said, also she catch the wind, because he not no good neither. but she was very good. And I don't know, and then that was her boss said, she don't know why she get into something. Yeah, she was doing that big time.
Oh,
She was
wow.
bringing, yeah, she was human trafficking from the Philippines.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
got the Philippines is not the only jurisdiction that I'm hearing. I'm hearing there's some serious issue even with Nepalese as well.
But
So
she was asking me something too about Honduras, and I said that's not place with the message. I keep trying to, like, I said, why you doing that kind of thing? I said that's big trouble if you get catch. But I was sorry because she's a good pedicure. She's very good because they're trying to get somebody there. They don't have nobody because they got a lot of people with these ingrowing nails. And I mean, that I have, well, mine not really nail it. The skin goes down because one salon had give me fungus and that too, and I can't get that thing better. We even thinking about going to the podiatrist and getting that whole thing pull out because boy, that is terrible. That hurts me. And I can't need a pedicure. I know I can't touch my sheet, my blanket or not with that, and that kills me. So very good, but she messed herself up.
Yeah.
And she was good. And that's what the girl said. She don't know why she was into that because she was making good money. But greedy. Some people, they say greedy is skill puppy. And then when I heard that I went to court one day and by the day they were saying, oh my God. But her niece in my tone now, and she put a good too. But
thank you.
Good, but too sad.
That's right.
And, okay.
Leave us there, Michelle. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, you too.
All right, cool. We're getting some comments coming in here from Damian Charles. He says the Kenya and other African nations are on the rise now as well. Is that here or in general? And we also have, I had flagged some messages here earlier. Damian Charles previously commented that that's why we need GOL, which is one and same as work permit cards, again, with fingerprints and barcode that can tell a CBC officer what you are approved to be working as. You're quite right, Damian Charles. And I'm going to double check the immigration law to see that that's in there, because that was actually weird enough. That issuance of a ID, a work permit ID is what we used to call them back in the day, is actually in law. So here we go again. That was actually in law. And for whatever reasons, I think back in the day, and I'm speaking almost 16, 17 years ago, I can remember a staff there just sitting down and doing all of those, printing them off, laminating them and all that good stuff. And then they had the actual card that would produce them, but something went wrong with the machine and cost and all that sort of stuff. But what I'm saying is, if it's still in law, that means we're in breach. And people are calling for this, which brings in another topic of national ID. So, Damian Charles, yeah, I agree with you. It would make life easier, but that also dovetails into where this ID comes in as well with the digital footprint. Agencies, Ms. Ebank says, agencies themselves tell these employers and employees foolishness because they don't know the laws themselves on work permits sometimes as well. You're quite right. And this is why we're having this space here. And in my closing, I have some message that you can't just be ignorant to the law, because you can impact your very own livelihood, you know? So it is quite interesting, but I'm hoping that I'm able to shed some light. Even though your participation is key, I thank you for your experiences. I thank you for calling in, for your participation, sorry. And I thank you for calling in and vocalizing these things. And there is serious call of action that is needed. And the word that keeps coming up more and more is that we need more accountability from our gatekeepers. I'm being as respectful and as polite as I can be. That's just in my nature. But you got called an ace when you have to call it, because if we're seeing what's happening with certain nationalities that are here, we have the legislation, you know, we just need the people to hold people accountable. So yeah, but yeah, I understand this ID thing. That's a whole different show. Damian Charles here in Cayman. Oh, okay, that's you. You had said the Kenyan and the other African nations are on the rise here in Cayman. All nations here are on the rise. Oh Lord. And yeah. There, somebody's shouting out Michelle, but yeah, I am not going to hold you up anymore. I must say I've enjoyed the discussion. I hope that I was able to shed some light on the Labor Act here in the Cayman Islands, and that you were able to be able to understand your rights, the rights of the employer, the rights of the employee, and to just understand that, you know, this sick leave pay and this working pay as you go, that's illegal here in Cayman. It is totally illegal. And I wanted to make sure that persons who may, as it pertains to maternity leave, for a matter of just getting the information out there, females employees are entitled to 12 weeks of maternity leave in any 12-month period. Females are entitled to 12 weeks of maternity leave in any year, 12 months, with a portion of the leave being paid. Now, you and your employer has to work that out. There's also paternity leave as well, where the father, male employees are also eligible of at least 2 weeks of paternity leave. That's in the private sector. That's in the private sector. So this is in law. This isn't what I'm just saying because I'm pulling it out of an ostrich, you know what. This is in our law. So a portion of this 12 weeks of maternity leave, some moms actually, they will save up vacation close down to when their due date is, and they will just compile it. So sometimes they can stretch it. There's been national discussions from my time, which I can tell you personally, I supported it, but with delicate data, advice as it pertains to how we deal with maternity leave and paternity leave and paid and that sort of stuff. So yes, this is something that I understand for bonding and all that good stuff. I would support it as well, but we have to make sure that just saying, yes, we support it. There has to be legislation change, public discussion. How could it impact small businesses? There were even conversations around, could we see a decline in female childbearing persons being able to get a job? And then human rights come in. But before I say any more, good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening. I'm not going to make you go too much further into overtime. You just
I
mentioned
don't
about
mind.
in
Go ahead.
the private sector.
Yeah.
And were you saying that that is already in legislation?
That's
or
what we're
that they're
saying.
pushing for that?
That's what they're planning on expounding it. But yeah, maternity leave, paternity leave is something that right now, if it's not in Word format, it is to the discretion of the employer. That's where I think they were using compassionate leave, even though it's a separate definition, but it's really working out for fathers with the employer. But I know in the private, in government, they're actually have, if not approved, I stand to be corrected, already covered for paternity leave.
They do have 2 weeks in the government for paternity leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're dragging their feet because there's no paternity leave in the private sector. And that is a shame. Like it really is. So yeah, that's what I was calling it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sure. Yeah. So again, we notice that, and it is quite common when government implements a certain policy in the civil service, in government, that normally they expect private sector to follow suit. But again, that requires, and it takes a lot of grit and commitment, respect, understanding that both parties, mom and dad, requires that bonding time, and it elevates how we're maturing as a jurisdiction as well. Welcome, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Hi, I was just gonna comment. I don't think it's fair that women get all this parent leave, but the men don't get. Because I'm glad that you said men want to bond with babies too.
Mm-hmm.
They want to help around with the wife too. But just for giggles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that some men should get the same leave if they get the 2 weeks? Shouldn't that be per baby mother?
Repeat that again.
I said, shouldn't men get the same leave if they get in 2 weeks? Wouldn't that apply per baby mother?
So if they have two people not after hours yet, but I go in there with you just because you challenge me, you're bringing out the alter ego in me this evening. Now that is very interesting. You say just for giggles. I caught the disclaimer. It's going to be interesting because that doesn't take away from him being a father. whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a direct partner, a spouse, civil partner. Once they can be deemed or father, they should be entitled. It doesn't matter what the relationship status is when it comes to the father. I'm just being fair.
No, what I'm saying is that, you know, I mean,
Not
what
per
kind of wiggle room is in the law? Because I mean, if you got some men who find a loophole and they be like, all right, well,
because
I'm gonna
of the
space
in a
mine out.
12-year, because of a 12-month cycle. Oh God, he can have how much baby mothers in 1 year? Oh my God, it would only take you to come up with that, you know. Well,
No, I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying that, you know, it becomes
Jesus wept. You see, you gotta listen to you, you know. You gotta listen to you.
but then another thing too. I remember watching news channel some time back, and they were talking about some countries like Spain wanted to introduce something called menstrual leave, right? Like, you know, like how some women, they have, you know, their monthly is so
It's bad.
bad that, you know, they feel sick just getting up.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that about Cayman introducing something like that? And I'll leave you there.
Okay, thank you so much, caller, for that. Right now, dissecting it out for specific conditions, I think if it's anything, we can look at specific legislation that could give more wiggle room, yes, for something that would actually impact somebody every month. To label it as menstrual leave would then take a separate type of leave that would not impact, as we currently have it, as 10 days sick leave. But for females who are still seeing their monthlies in that jurisdiction, if that was the perspective that they're coming from, for us to consider that, I think that's a national debate. It's worth exploring for females because they're sick pretty much every month because they're that bad. And if they can't get medical intervention to help with those symptoms and what they're actually experiencing, then every month, some people can actually eat up maybe 1 or 2 days out of sick leave. Now, you do that every month if you're regular. You could eat up your 10 days sick leave before a year is up just because you have bad or you're trying to deal with your menstrual cycle. So that's interesting. And again, caller, I'm glad for the challenge. This is almost like putting you on the spot, but you just got to think it through as we continue to evolve in this space, which is why I know HR professionals are not dealing in the same environment that we were, let's say 5, 8, 10 years ago. No, this landscape is constantly changing. And yes, it's one thing that you look at the law. This is why our laws are so important. This is why it's so important for our gatekeepers to be upholding the law. But it's even more important for our legislators to have around these big discussion tables, these conversations as we continue to evolve, as we continue to modernize as a jurisdiction and create that safe, inviting work environment. But you do have some exceptional employers and organization that is way in advance. And even though certain provisions are not enshrined or written in law, they treat their employers fair and they're understanding. And then you have those unscrupulous ones that you really need to have the law in place. And even with the laws in place, they still don't uphold them. So it's going to be very interesting. I am optimistic about the future for a jurisdiction. I'm being very honest. The mere fact that you are being very vocal in this space, the mere fact that we have males and females alike commenting, calling in, and they are bringing up topics that is sound, that is mature, we can hash it out here, and we know that the powers that be are listening, is a step in the right direction. And let me tell you, we cannot stop. We're not doing it aggressive. We're just ventilating it. We're bringing it to their attention, and we are willing to work hand in hand as we improve this space and therefore make our jurisdiction one of the places that can be envied. But it takes everybody to row in the same direction, not pulling a tug of war, not getting up in your feelings, not thinking that anybody's on a witch hunt, because I'm just creating the space. but I'm also advocating for those who may not have a voice. I'm educating those in the most simplistic ways that I can. And I'm not coming across as a lawyer or an attorney. I am doing my best with breaking this down based on the comments that I'm getting, based on the allegations that have been received, based on persons that are out there working. And for those persons who are strong enough, brave enough, and bold enough to actually share their personal stories with us, I thank you. I thank you for being so bold. I thank you for being so brave. And we will continue to actually advocate for change here in our jurisdiction, in our country, so that we're all creating that level, fair playing field. Ms. Ebanks, employees are mostly foreigners, so the law will never be upheld because HR people are mostly foreigners. Oh, HR employees are mostly foreigners. So the law will never be upheld because HR people are mostly foreigners times clueless. Okay. That has been a complaint for years, Ms. Ebanks, to be honest, where you will find that HR professionals now are not locals and they are from another jurisdiction. And I agree, some of them are not too versed in the legislation here. And that is where we're feeling that some people are feeling in certain organizations that they're being disenfranchised, that nepotism reeks, that they're looking out for their college, university buddies, and you can see a certain nationality once they're embedded into, it is alleged, once you see certain nationalities at the head or responsible for employment, that they're more in favor of their own nationality, friends, family, or foe to be employed in that organization. So, yeah. But again, we are bringing it to the attention here. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for going public with your comment. And we will do our best to work and hoping that, our gatekeepers will do it. But, at the end of the day, I can't believe it. What time is it? OMG, it's almost 7:30. Jim, what are you saying now? He is not for employees, but to protect their employees' HR. Sorry. HR is not for employees, but to protect their employers. And that's a fact. For someone who has been a victim, who's a very vocal advocate, Jim minced no words, and he is here in the fight to definitely keep this to keep this going as we advocate for more accountability here. Sabrina, you're working overtime this evening. That's good that you can hold out topics that is needed on Cayman talk shows. I'm here as long as you're here. Once we have other content right now that is going to be filling the space, and we know that I'm going to have to be more cognizant of time as we evolve in this space, I will definitely have to do a hard stop. I was able to get this little wiggle room because you demanded it. But now we've gone to 2.5 hours. No. But once you're here with me and you're participating, you're engaging, I'm willing to stick it out with you. But, we got to bring today's show to a close, not to segue into 3 hours. No. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this very important conversation. I hope that there's a lot of takeaways. And, as we close, I'm going to put a little image up here on the screen because that's exactly how I want you to leave today. I know the conversation may have been difficult for some. The reality, again, is real for so many of you that are out there that is being disenfranchised by unscrupulous employers, by your very own nationalities. And you come here looking for a better life, even though you may be living here under some conditions that begs the question, why would you do it? I can't honestly say that I can speak from a place of knowing. I have been blessed that I've never had to go to another man's country to work, to provide for my family. And I think that every Caymanian who has the ability and the ambition to work, that we have to be so thankful that we don't have to be an expatriate worker in another man's country because of some of the conditions that we know some come here to work under is our plight. But I want to leave you with a sobering thought. And this sobering thought this evening is for each of our roles in this system. I want to leave a sobering message to every employee that listened here. And this was really brought on because of you, because I realize many of you are left in the dark. And some of you are intentional with your acts. Some of you are demanding, insisting that no deductions are actually removed from your salary. I'm here to tell you today that stops. And an employer who's upholding that, both of you need to be taken and be held responsible for in breach of the law. But to the employees who stuck with me today, let me tell you something. Your right is not a privilege to be granted. Your right is a foundation to be defended. One important thing is that ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And assuming that someone else will protect you is honestly a dangerous risk to your own livelihood. Your peace of mind and your future depends on your advice and understanding of this act and why it was important for me to do my best in trying to break it down. We barely scratched the surface on this topic, but at least we began to have the conversation. My message to the employers: compliance to this act is not a suggestion. It is a mandatory pillar of a just and sustainable business. And the short-term gains of non-compliance are dwarfed by the long-term cost of legal battles. If somebody goes the distance and challenge you, reputational damage on your product and your business, and the workforce that knows it's not valued. And also to the employers, a fair workplace is not just an ethical choice. It is a sound business strategy. Now, to our gatekeepers, officially, civil servants, who are tasked with enforcing this act. You hold the keys to fairness and justice in our workforce. And your role is not merely administrative. It is a profound duty. And every decision you make, every case you handle, shapes the very integrity of the Cayman Islands labor market. The trust of a nation rests on your impartiality and your unwavering commitment to the law. And finally, to those in our civil society who operate in the shadows, engaging in acts that fall outside the letter of the law, and outright included in that human trafficking, understand this: the absence of a specific statute, the absence of a specific law, does not mean an absence of moral responsibility. And what you do in the ethical vacuum erodes the very fabric and trust and fairness that holds our community together. Saved by a license, a LCCL, a local license act, a LCCL, every Caymanian, only Caymanians can take out a trading business. And there are discounts right now. But what you do, let me tell you, in the ethical vacuum, erodes the very fabric and trust and fairness that holds us together. And let me tell you what, you may not get catch now because our gatekeepers needs a little bit more fire under them. You are simply operating where no one has yet to be written. The Labor Act is more than just words on a page. It's more than just a book. It's more than just a soft copy that you can download, and it's there for everybody. But it is really a social contract that requires a solemn participation from all of us. So I hope that by being able this evening to bring you a show of this nature with such sobering stories, such obvious flaws, gaps that needs to be filled, will be taken seriously by everyone. I'm about being fair. I'm about being balanced. And if you noticed, I sent a stark message to the employees, employers, and to everyone who's living in our civil society, because this is not a one-way street. It takes all of us to live in this space harmoniously, but most importantly, to uphold the laws of our very own community. I want to ask you, please, to take a chill, close your eyes, and let the night do its magic, no matter what you're faced with. Put your thoughts in a positive state of mind. I want to thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward to a very informative discussion as I bring you another episode of Sabrina Speaks tomorrow. But I'll leave that right there for now. Thank you for staying with me. God bless. Love you lots. That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, K-Man, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.